Welcome to By the Numbers. Now, the idea of this particular program is to help better understand the budget process, and that's on various levels. That could be a town department, a municipal budget, even how the state provides funding or local aid to communities. Now, the mission of the show itself is to talk with local stakeholders and to get their insight on their town's financial picture, or maybe if they're a department head, get their intake on what it's like to build a budget and put it forth and go through the process. Now, today we're privileged to have a great guest. He is the chairman of the Hanson Board of Selectmen. We have Mr. Ken Mitchell. Mr. Mitchell.
How you doing, Kevin?
Pretty good. Yourself,
sir? Good to see you
this
again.
has been a great vehicle to speak with different folks and kind of get a little insight in case folks kind of forget as to how they got into it. How did you decide to run for Board of Selectmen? Because you're a guy who you are someone who volunteers and you do a lot of work for the community. So what made you run for office?
Well, I was on a couple of committees prior to that. I was on, actually I still am. Parks and Fields was the first one that I was on. I was also the chairman of the Police Chief Search Committee when we hired Chief Mix. So a couple people had mentioned it and said, hey, Kenny, you should try being a selectman. I said, I don't know if that's for me. So what I did, Kevin, is I started going to meetings. And I went to meetings probably for 3 or 4 months just to check it out. And I saw some interest. And I said, you know what, I think I could really help the town of Hanson. And that's why I did it. And I'm happy I did it.
So talk to me, so from sitting on those various committees, what are some of the things that you've been able to kind of pull from that and use it in your role as a selectman now?
I think the dedication, for the town, the commitment, because as you know, we're volunteers, so.
But do people realize that you are not paid, that
No.
there is no stipend?
No, they don't. Because I run across people all the time, and if the topic comes up, a lot of people think. In fact, in the past, selectmen in Hanson did get paid, and then they changed it, I think, in the 80s. But yeah, we don't get paid at all, no stipend at all for being a selectman.
What's it been like getting into discussing numbers? Especially, I mean, you're somebody I'm sure who's been through your fair share of town meetings, but now as an elected official, it's kind of different. What has it been like to kind of get involved with the budget process and really see real numbers and have discussions as to what the town actually has been able to bring in for revenue and be able to spend for the next fiscal year?
Right. Well, in Hanson, we're very fortunate. We have a great financial team. It starts with Todd, our accountant, and the girls in his office, and then the treasurer collector, Jean, and the girls in her office, and also Mary Marini and Mike McHugh. I mean, this financial team, Kevin, I'd go as far as saying it's the best team in the South Shore, So that's the first start. So when you're going through the budget process, you need to have, all of those people in on it, Todd is excellent. Well, one of the things that we do in Hanson is we'll start working on the budget right when that next budget starts. So we'll start on the fiscal 21 budget, right away, as we get to the end of the summer and the fall. Some department heads will start on July 1st and start working on their budget for the next fiscal year. So I really have to give the credit to the financial team in the town of Hanson, because the town of Hanson is fiscally sound. We're going to be talking, we have some items that are going to be going to town meeting, articles. So we got to be sitting, Mike McHugh's going to be sitting with Todd actually tomorrow, and we've got to fine tune and see what we have money for and see what we don't have money for, and just kind of, wrap it up so we can get that budget where it needs to be.
How is it looking? How is Hanson's budget looking? And I ask you this, knowing that I'm setting it up for a question in regards to a community that you neighbor, that you share a school district with, and a lot of likenesses, Whitman, which is actually going through some financial problems right now, realizing a major deficit in their budget. How is Hanson doing?
I think in that regards, Hanson is okay. Hanson's definitely okay. We'll have a small shortfall that we'll have to work out, but a couple $100,000, not millions. In Whitman, I don't know really what's going on over there, but you never want to see that in a community, especially a community that, we're regionalized with the school district, So that's tough. Now, the town of Hanson had to deal with that before I was a selectman years ago. We had to deal with, that same issue, and there was layoffs and stuff at that time. But yeah, that's really tough to go through. So I feel bad for them over there.
Talk to me about the school district budget, because I know that that's a portion, a large portion of any municipal budget. And we know the last couple of cycles, the schools have increased their annual assessment. And I think actually that the numbers were just released,
Yeah,
that it's going to be 15.1. In your
Right.
opinion, what has to be done to satisfy their needs, but make sure it's not going to come at the cost of other departments?
Kevin, that's a great question. I can tell you that at 15%, that's not something that the town of Hanson can sustain. So we've had a good relationship over the past with the schools, so we've always been able to work it out. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough with insurance costs that are increasing every year. That's also tough to deal with. But that number there is not something that the town of Hanson can sustain. But usually we'll have talks, between finance and Todd with the school and Mike McHugh, and usually we'll try to work it out. But it looks like there possibly that word override, maybe in Whitman at least that might happen. But yeah, it's tough. That's a real tough question.
You talk overrides. It's not something that communities want to even discuss unless it's going to endanger schools, police, or fire.
Right.
I mean,
and unfortunately, that's what happens. It's layoffs. The only way to cut the budget is layoffs. Which is it's unfortunate. Because they'll have to look at, I'm sure, fire, police, possibly DPW. But if there is a large shortfall, that's the only way to get it down, unfortunately. So, yeah, like I said, that's difficult to have to go through.
As we mentioned early on in the conversation, that Hanson does share a regional school district with Whitman. There are talks that there have been conversations about a possible wage or hiring freezes in the school district. If even the teachers would even think of such a thing,
right,
yeah.
the union.
If those discussions are successful, does that also help Hanson at all, or no?
I don't see how that would help if they chose to freeze. I don't see how that would help Hanson unless that 15% number comes down as a result of it. We haven't had any talks in Hanson currently as of today about any wage freezes, at all. But yeah, that's difficult to have to deal with, Kevin.
We always talk about revenue and the importance of revenue, and it depends on the makeup of a community. What is it that the town of Hanson can do to generate additional revenue to help offset any kind of financial problems? What have some of the discussions been over the years?
I mean, one of the things that we've all been talking about is, trying to redevelop South Hanson, the Main Street area, So we've been actually actively working on a few different things, to try to get that area up and running. If we can get more businesses over there and get it up and running, obviously that's going to increase tax dollars to the bottom line, We had, a couple of years ago, we had a lot of condominiums that were built in the town that increased, our taxes, which was helpful. I'm not sure directly what you could do just to overnight, other than raise taxes, which that's not something that we're talking about, to increase revenue, It's just maintaining the budget. Everybody has a budget, and you just have to stick to the budget, and you have to be real strict towards it, So that's what in the town of Hanson. Listen, we've got great department heads. The department heads are all, and this is one of the reasons why I love serving for the town of Hanson. The employees are great. The department heads are great. The people that they have that work in town hall, it's a well-oiled machine, and we're very, very fortunate in the town of Hanson to have the people that we have that are working for us.
It's interesting you say that because I think I've watched you chair a few of the wage
And personnel.
wage and personnel, and so you're right there in the trenches
Yes.
discussing and what's going on. So if
Yes.
anybody would know better, it would be you.
Yeah, that's right.
So
And I've
definitely
learned a lot in 4 years that I've been on, 4.5 years. Yeah, I love the town of Hanson, and I did pull papers. I'm going to be on the ballot again on May 18th, because I want to serve another term. There's a few things that I still want that I'm involved with that I still want to take care of. So hopefully the people will agree with me and
Go that
elect me
way.
back in. Yeah.
So you talked about Main Street. What could be brought in? Is there any kind of industry that can be brought in that would help generate revenue? Because here's the one thing I would ask, and knowing that Whitman had an opportunity, Hanson had an opportunity.
Right.
Because of 2016, the way folks voted regarding marijuana, that could have been an avenue, but folks decided
Right.
via another vote that they did not want that.
Right. Yep.
So what other industry can be brought in that's going to help put tax dollars on the
I don't know
rolls?
about an industry, but I think that would be a perfect area for like apartments because of the train. So maybe somebody comes and builds, a couple hundred units of, apartments, possibly, and people would, want to live there because of the train right there across the street. That's one thing. I don't know what other businesses, but that area it just doesn't look the best. That area over there, the old Ocean Spray building.
What seems to be, again, this is, and I know that during election season, it seems like every year it's a conversation, and somebody wants to bring up and talk about what seems to be the hurdle or hurdles that is preventing any further development or any progress being made.
Sewer. Sewer is the biggest hurdle over there. Because if you're a big business, you don't want to come in there and spend thousands and thousands of dollars on a septic treatment plant, possibly. It's sewer. If that area, if we could figure out a way, and I don't know that we could, but if we could figure out a way to get sewer in that area, that's a ball game changer right there. So I think that's the biggest issue with that area.
So is it a matter of just tying into, or does it not, or is
There's no sewer at all over there.
no town sewer?
No town sewer. That's correct.
Is that something the town might should think about investing in, or it just doesn't have the capital to do so?
No, it doesn't have the capital to do so.
Okay.
And we've looked at a few different things through Old Colony Planning, and we're looking at a few things, but it's certainly not an expense that the town of Hanson could take on.
Okay.
But if that area had sewer, we probably wouldn't be talking about this right now.
Okay, it's good to know. I want you to take off your elected official hat and put on your taxpayer hat. Do you feel, from front to back, that the town has the type of leadership it needs to endure and solve a budget crisis if another one arises in the next 5 years?
The answer to that question is yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely. Even my board, we have a great board. We're able to get a lot of things done. We all work cohesively. Absolutely, there's no question about it that we have the right people in place.
So I would ask you this. I know the one thing that has been discussed and bandied about and pushed around in the town of Hanson is why doesn't the community have a capital plan? Is this something that all communities should have, if in fact they do have enough money to put one forth? Does Hanson have one in the development stages or have one that it's readily using?
We have a capital plan. I don't know that it's readily used, but that's one of the former selectmen. That was one of the things that that he was on, Jim McGann, that really wanted a capital plan. So we're working on it to get it to to fine tune it. I don't think it's where it needs to be, but that's something that we're working on.
So something in the planning stage. If you were to have a wish list in regards to, I should say a wish list, but if there was a capital plan put in place, and we were talking earlier about the schools.
Yes.
In regards to, we've already had a conversation with the school superintendent, Jeff Simonak, and one thing he has said is that for the past so many years that the district has been level funded.
Funded, sure.
What would you like to see done to not only increase revenue in the town, so you can be able to give them more finances, but yet also tackle pet projects like maybe put sewer in on Main Street? Give me your thoughts as
So
far
in
as.
other words, if we had an abundance of money, what would I like to
Yeah,
see?
yeah.
Certainly schools, would be important. The highway department. The highway department is, they needed more employees. The highway department has 5 employees. It's not enough for the work that they have to get done over there. So if there was a windfall of money, I would look at that area to hire some more employees for the highway department, But in order to do that, you've got to be able to sustain, those positions for, 4 or 5 years. It's not something you could put in place today and say, okay, let's fund it for a year and revisit it in 2 years. You can't do that. So that's one area where we've got to just over the next, and it's not going to happen for this budget, this fiscal year. It's something that we've got to, just look at, down the road. That would be, that and the schools, I think would be the first 2 areas that I would look at.
Okay. Some would say that not necessarily just the town itself, but a lot of the communities on the South Shore are somewhat conservative. Does that help or hurt a community when it comes to dealing with a crisis, a financial crisis?
I think it can hurt probably a little bit
Okay.
during a financial crisis, when they're conservative, because we talk about overrides. Well, nobody, if we're conservative all the time, when the word override comes up, it's something that nobody wants to entertain at all. So I think that could possibly hurt a community, being a little bit conservative, when it comes down to crunch time.
Okay. Social media. I've noticed more and more that social media is something that a lot of town issues are discussed.
Yeah.
That are discussed. And I'm not necessarily sure that accurate information is disseminated. Give me your thoughts on it. Have you had ever chance to take a look and see what some of the comments are in regards to your
Yes,
community?
so I do. I personally don't have a Facebook account. I do read the 2 towns, they're not the towns, but the 2 websites that are on Facebook that people have created to talk about the town of Hanson. And a lot of times, you're 100% right. I'll read something that somebody posts, and it's 100% inaccurate. It could be something that we discussed maybe in executive session or something that's going on with the town, and the information that people are posting is just incorrect. And like I said, I don't have a Facebook account, so I'm not going to be one that's going to go on and correct them. I just read it and say, that's interesting that they have that point of view. And I know, being a town official, that it's 100% inaccurate. So I think that social media, although it's good to get out information, positive information, but I think it can hurt too. And I think Facebook, people believe everything that they read, and a lot of stuff is posted that's not necessarily true. So social media, I'm not a big fan of it, However, like I said, for as far as getting information out, if there's an event or something, I think then social media can be very positive. But for me personally, I just stay away.
What's it's interesting that you say that, because I agree with you in regards to that some people will wholeheartedly put something out there that is inaccurate. It's almost as though whomever told them that, they're believing completely as well. Almost like, you're all hanging around the water cooler, and the information that's being shared, it must be true if that's what so-and-so says. Is there a way for the town to maybe hold regular, like whether it's like a seminar or classes, or I should say classes, but something that is held maybe in the Selectman's room prior to town meeting, where maybe it's a day-long thing to educate and inform people?
I think a lot of those, if you had something like that, I don't think you'd get great attendance.
What do you think that is?
I think most people don't care, Kevin. That's the bottom line. Just most people, everybody has busy lives. They have children, and at the end of the day, they really don't care about local town government. Unless something happens and their taxes get increased, and then those are the people that start complaining. And then you say, hey, did you go to a town meeting? And they say, what's town meeting? You know, so unfortunately, and I can say this just because of the numbers you get at town meeting, you know.
I was gonna ask you that.
130, 140, you know, maybe if you had something good, 150 people out of 6,000 registered voters. So that just tells you right there that, unfortunately, most people don't care.
How many, if you were to guess, how many registered voters would you say are in Hanson? 6,000?
Yeah, just over 6,000.
And if you were to take a guess, how many do you think turn out to the Hanson Middle School? Maybe 150, 200?
Yes, not even 200, no. There's times when we've had to wait until, you know, 20 minutes late because we didn't have a quorum, which is 100. You know, so we'd be waiting just to start up, and we'd be checking with Beth Sloan. How many you got now? 76, and then we're all getting on our phones and, hey, come on down to town. So it's sad. It's sad that you have just a small percentage of people making, you know, very, very tough, expensive, you know, financial decisions.
So I would ask, what could be done to improve that? Because again, that's part of the process. That's
You could
part of the
try,
budgeting
I know
process.
other communities have had the same problem. You could try maybe a Saturday town meeting, you know.
I come from a town that has a Saturday town meeting.
there
And
you go.
it's
I don't know if that's the answer. You have, you know, maybe provide some babysitting, so, you know, young families with small children, because that's a part. If you have a family, you know, if you got little kids, you're not going to bring them out and go to town meetings. So, you know, maybe we come up with a, you know, a nursery or something, you know, for kids for a couple of hours. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough. I don't even know if the Saturdays would do it. I'd be willing to try it if, you know, if the other board members agree to it.
knowing that we have technology these days. What if there was a way to be able to identify the people who are participating? Let's say if you did something that was virtual, could that be something that could be, you know, an experiment?
That's a good question. I think town meeting needs to be.
You should be there.
You should be there. Yep. And,
Should
and
do
you
it.
should make, if it's really important to you, make the arrangements. You know, have an in-law or somebody come and watch the kids for an hour or two. And it's only a couple of hours. It's twice a year, in May and in October. You know, but I would love to see more people at town meeting. I used to go to town meeting before I was a selectman, you know, and haven't missed one since. You know, and it's very, very important for people to attend town meeting, you know.
We've had an exceptional conversation here. Have I been remiss, or is there anything that I haven't asked you in regards to the budgets, about numbers, the financial picture?
Yeah, no, like I said, Kevin, I can't praise our team enough, you know, and honestly, if they weren't to where they are now, I may not even run again, you know, but they make me and the rest of our board look good, you know, they're just tremendous. They're unbelievable. So the town of Hanson is extremely fortunate, you know, on the team that we have and all the employees, and it's truly a pleasure to serve the town.
Thank you very much for coming in and
No problem.
being my guest, and thank you for viewing this particular program and the series itself. As the idea is to better inform you, the viewer, the person who is a part of the two communities that we serve, that we're looking to inform, Whitman and Hanson. And in fact, there is something that you want to share, whether it's a question or ideas for future guests for the program, info@WHCA.tv is your way of getting through, or even if you want to just make a comment on the series, whether it's positive or to the other way, it's okay. We want to hear feedback from you about it so we can do our best to tweak it and make it better to better inform others. You've been watching By the Numbers. Until the next time, have a good day.